Hey everybody, how's it? All right, new day, new band, new song, first time listen. This is Architect's Doomsday, and you're gonna start this week. I'm slowly winding down from the hardcore metal and all the stuff that I've done. Yesterday was Metal Monday. I dropped 3 bombs on you guys, and this is still prog rock, I believe. The first time I've heard the band, but I have this under my prog rock genre. And so I look forward to listening to them. I do want to thank you guys so much for all your support and everything like that, the great comments and stuff like that. Like in Architects, if there's other songs that you want me to do, because a lot of times I don't necessarily choose the most popular one, or when I pull from the list, I actually don't really choose. I just look at the list and see how many people kind of upvoted something. And then sometimes people say, oh dude, that was not the best song. Please leave that, which ones I should check out, please, in the comments. I want to thank you guys for the support, especially for those of you who bought me a cup of coffee. When these videos run, you see the ads. It's not mine. I don't monetize these videos. It's copyright claims by the publishers and the record companies. They make the money. So, if you guys decide to buy me a cup of coffee, super cool beans. I also have new social media sites for you to drop any suggestions on. You can do it here on YouTube, but I also have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which I pretty much, the Instagram's fairly new. And finally, that logo that you saw that opened up, I actually have some merch. And 100% of the proceeds of that merch, as well as what I get for the cup of coffee, goes towards the things that I do with the kids as a ventriloquist and everything. And there's a link down there for that too, if you're curious to see what it is that I do for the kids as a ventriloquist. A lot of voices in my head. Can you imagine that? Anyhow, so let's hit it. Architect's Doomsday. All right.
Frozen over, the cold still burns underneath my skin. The water is rising all around me, and there is nothing left I can give. All these tears I've shed, I saw the wildfire spread. You said you cheated time, but heaven was in my head. They say the good die, no use in saying what it's done is done, 'cause it's not enough. And when the night gets white, it's like a brand new doomsday. What will be, every river flows into the sea, but it's never enough. And when the night gets white, it's like a brand new doomsday. No matter what they say, it's like a brand new doomsday.
What a completely crazy sonic journey this is. Dynamics, composition, arrangement, musicianship, the vocalist, jeez. I don't know where to start. I'll start with the beginning of the song to the best of my recollection. This sometimes gets difficult for me as the old composer, the Decomposer, because I get so entrenched in the song, and all of a sudden my brain goes into automatic dissect mode. But I'm coming at it not only as a musician and a composer and arranger, but also as an engineer, and also as a fan of really detailed dynamics in all of those that I just listed. So let's start from the beginning. Excuse me. I thought for a second it was just kind of like a stinger, like a sound stinger for a brand. You know how sometimes that opens up, it's like a soundscape thing, but it was actually part of the song. And there was soundscape going on there, a little bit of tone where soundscape is things that make noises. It could be wind, it could be metallic, long delayed sounds. But what I loved about what I was hearing was, at first I was going, okay, well, we're going to go somewhere with this, is that it's mono. It's right here in your face. So if you listen to this, it felt in production, in the theater of the mind, perhaps, as you're sitting in a room going, how are we going to set this up or deliver this to the pure listener, which is you. It was to take this and actually bring you into a small myopic, little space here, and kind of take your head and your ears in the beginning of your experience and bring it here. And then it just completely bloomed and exploded. And that's where you get the hard left and right, experience underway. Starting off with that riff, I love the fact that the riff had that consistent arpeggiation higher up on the guitar. A lot of times in my experience with prog that I've been doing here on this channel and stuff, because I'm still really fairly new compared to the years of catalog, and as long as I've been doing these videos, just a few months. I've heard many different ways that people are extremely, guitar players, musicians, bass players, very riffy in this type of writing. And a lot of times relying on open tuning guitars and the fact that they bury their root note in an open string, however the guitar is tuned. And multiple series and arpeggiations and stuff and intervals and stuff. I love that they hung really tight into this sequence that they had up on the higher part of the guitar, but as they were digging down for the root bottom part, the open, it changed. So the arpeggiation stayed in the same exact notes, but then the bass changes, and that really, it's a unique thing because you feel the change as the pure listener. You feel there's change happening there, but the kind of the zip line arrangement, if you would, that's like, just that one thing that you can kind of hang on to for your life through that journey, is that arpeggiation to me. The song construction, when it breaks down into where the vocalist at first gets to really kind of chill and set you in a tone, as that explodes out there, this vocalist has an unbelievable range of emotional attributes or expressions with his voice. Remember, I don't listen to the vocals with lyrics and stuff. I treat the vocalist as an instrument, and then as I go back and listen to a song, I might dig into lyrics. I get a rash for that sometimes, but that's just how I listen to it. Very rarely do we get all the lyrics on the first listen because we're just so enamored by the power of the music. But what an incredible vocal range. And he took us through a journey of nice, clean, straightforward rock, all the way through screaming, and not necessarily growling, but this powerful scream, and then melodic approach in the hook and stuff like that, where it's just everything is coming out. Everything about this whole thing is coming out in front, and just extremely powerful. Another thing I want to hit on is, since I don't know the band, how many members are in the band, there's obviously keyboard pads and stuff that really add to the depth and the abyss vibe of this production. And when I say the abyss vibe, or the ambient vibe, for you, the pure listeners, it's that sound, it's that approach that could be used with a keyboard and particular sounds that gives you that long, universal, deep kind of way back, it kind of rinses way back into your head kind of tone. The original pads, those things were actually strings back in the day before synths, with a lot of reverb. And then now, because of, modules and different kind of pads that you can choose, you get this beautiful, long, deep, and these guys were able to mix all of that together for this experience. And then, of course, the drums and the bass. I mean, I have been totally blown away of the trajectory of engineering since I'm an old engineer starting in the 70s. Just how wonderful engineering has become when you're going to push technical limits and what you can do. There's still a lot of great records out there that are coming out that still have traditional style engineering that isn't overly, A, B, C or something like this. But when you take something and decide this is how we're going to approach it as an engineer, that's a hell of a lot of work going on back there the person behind the console or the computer or the combo console computer, and really appreciate the drum EQs and stuff. And then speaking of drums, you know, the unique thing about the drummer that has, you know, the drums and the bass are the center of everything in my world. And one thing I want to mention before I go on is that during the riffiness and something like that, every note in that riff is represented by, you know, a strike on the kit. And not all the time is it just locked in just with the kick that's following the riff and the bass and everything. A lot of times it could be different ways to do it. I think it was Meshuggah, or I forgot what band it was that I recently did, where actually the riff killed it and started off on the kick. They did a turnaround and then they flipped where the snare was the actual accent of the riff instead of the kick, you know. And so this drummer's just smoking, and I love the sound of the kick. You guys know how I am about the kick. And but I'm just really stoked on where the trajectory of engineering has gone on this. And this song seems to be thus far a representation of everything that I love in where the world is at in prog rock or this kind of metal, in production and performance and everything. So I as an old guy, I celebrate you new young rock, new young artists, new young everything. I celebrate it all the way to the wall. You know, I'm not, well, you know, back in the days, you know, that. I mean, I could have that conversation too with some people, but I celebrate it. I'm going, push it, guys, push it. All right, here we go. I had to stop there. Sorry, guys. I know sometimes what places that I choose to stop, some people go, no! You know, they leave these big long. First I want to go, did you see me do this? That bass player is just, in that passage, what happens is a lot of times, we opened up with this big, powerful riff kind of thing, and everybody's in unison, and it broke into different passages, which is what I love about this production. It takes you through this, I'm in this journey, and then it just kind of pulls the parachute and just kind of lets you float for a while, and then it sets you up for another, you know, break free from that parachute and get ready to pull the ripcord on the other one. But the bass player, when I was going like this, oh my goodness, because now the guitars at that point are holding these, you know, long power chords and stuff, but the drums and the bass and that bass line and the way the bass is being performed there, it's just ridiculous. Then, of course, now I'm going to go back into the keyboards really quick, and you probably saw me go like this. That's because I heard this kind of pattern. Very, you know, I think it was just quarter notes or maybe eighth notes of just a pattern in the back here that added to layered on top of that pad that gives you that Abyss vibe. And man, I just love that. Now, the decision in the engineering to keep that tucked far enough behind, in my world, had I been in the engineering with this, is because, you know, keeping the integrity of the power of the band up front, you know, and it's also because you can get lost in that Abyss sound. You can, you know, if you bring it up kind of hot, you know, it's a great sound, but it's not about the Abyss sound because that type of arrangement, because that's just to add like an ambiance to it, very much like a delay or a reverb. Depending how long of a reverb you put on something, you can completely change the vibe of that performance from extremely dry to, excuse me, big cathedral sounds or long, you know, custom plate type sounds. And I'm sorry, for those of you who are the pure listener, I'm sorry, I do kind of gaga a little bit about that. But in this case, those long pads are like these long reverb type sounds, except with tones, you know, when they're holding it down, you know. Anyhow, onward I go. Oh, and geez, you know, there is a point, obviously, when the vocalist is growling or screaming. Kind of having a hard time differentiating right now. You guys help me with that. But even if it is just screaming, his ability to pull that off And also there's layers in this, in some of the stuff that I'm hearing when it comes to the screaming that'll go hard left and hard right, and it's just crazy. I just love it.
What's the prophet said? Still swimming through my head. Now there's no stars left in the sky, 'cause this well will never run dry. What if I completely forget? What if I never exist? 'Cause when you fade away, it's like a brand new doomsday.
All right, I got to stop right there. Sorry, guys. That passage there was a lot of trickery going on in there. They completely changed the kit sound. Beautiful long pads and stuff, and like that took over. The pads was like the big thing at that point there. But there, excuse me. But there was also these little nuance, rhythmical, trap-sounding percussion back there. Just really like half a bar or a bar worth, or maybe 2 beats worth. That kind of came out. That is very intricate. Decision making by whoever's doing the composing and the producing, and you know, a lot of times bands now there's one off. You know, there's one band member that's usually, not usually, but you know, nowadays because of technology, that is the producer, arranger, writer, composer, with the rest of the band come in, makes decisions, and they add these things. The fact that there's a little bit of pads and these nuances tells me, being I've never heard any other song from these guys, that they're not afraid to risk or have a little bit of constructive, artistic, you know, abstract work by using a little more and extra of the synth, even though this is a powerful, you know, prog rock, you know, presentation. And the fact that they have these elements in there tells me that, you know, at least this is 2017 they released this, but I don't know when the song really was released, that they're very progressive in their composition and arrangement to do one thing, and that's to deliver a real super deep, heavy journey for the listener. So I'm digging that, super digging it. See, back in my old producer days, my brains do still kind of gaga over that.
'Cause when you fade away, it's like a brand new doomsday.
I have something else that I just wanted to bring up really quick before I close this. You know, at the very beginning of the video, I try not to watch the videos, you know, because it's all about the music and stuff, but I noticed that it was poised on the triangle, meditation, and you know, I usually use a saying when I feel very elevated in this kind of composition, which is what, the third eye purple level. And then of course, to see that there's, you know, meditation at the end of this. You know, we all have our different jams to chill out, you know, and but the fact that they, even if it's just a visual thing, that they dialed in that just outbound connection universally just by the inference of him sitting in the position, and then, you know, the meditation thing. That was just a really super cool thing, and I did catch on that. I also do want to say too that I noticed throughout the production that whoever's doing the keyboard is like I remember, you guys got to help me and tell me if this band has the keyboard player, or if it's in the arranger or one of the other musicians. That there are some subtle, piano notes. Like we heard it at the end, but I also heard, I believe, at the beginning, the fact that it's not relegated to one particular sound. Much like a guitar, vocal, bass, you can change the sound. Stomp on this, do this, all of a sudden you got a flange, you've got to change and stuff like that. Keyboard's a little more, you can go a little deeper when layering, and a lot of times you can overdo it, but just the subtleness of maybe just one note, or, one set of notes and stuff like that, and played in thirds or whatever the case is, adds so much. As little as it is, less is more kind of vibe can add so much to production. Anyhow, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. This was a really, really long video, longer than I anticipated. Not the longest I've done, but I was completely blown away by this video and by this band. I'm going to actually listen to this again while I'm done editing and rendering this thing out. Because it was a hell of a journey. I definitely would not be listening to this song close to a very well-known speed trap, because I'd probably be hauling and I'd get a ticket. That was the kind of vibe I got. But it was one of those tracks that, on the other hand, that does make you go through this like theater of the mind drift, so well performed. And still, I don't know what the lyrics are, and maybe I'll get around to reading them, and I'm sure, please don't be offended if you're a lyricist and stuff, but I believe personally, maybe you can tell me, that a first listen of any song, you're not necessarily diving into the hook unless it's just so in your face, depending on the mix, and usually that's a pop mix or something. You're usually drawn in first by that intro of music that sets you up and stuff. So, and then we come around and rinse into the glory of the lyrics. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. For those of you who bought me a cup of coffee, thank you. For those of you who think you may want to, that link is below. And also that little logo you saw at the beginning of the video, I have merch for that. 100% of the proceeds of the merch goes to what I do with the kids. As a ventriloquist, I visit kids in hospitals. Well, I did before COVID. Hopefully I'll be able to do it again, probably about another 6 months. But I do other great things right now for them. Also, the links for their music and everything will be down below. The links for the other social media profile stuff will be down below. And if you're still here, type in hashtag #AllRight. All right, guys, take care. I've got another one coming out probably in about another 8-10 hours. I'm really going to take a little drift now off on this next one. You guys are going to be real surprised by this one. All right, guys, have a great day. All right.